I found the foil by accident, just a sliver of silver on the bathroom mat. Birth control. Claire hadn't touched it in years, not since my vasectomy. My chest tightened as steam curled around me and her humming drifted from the shower. She didn't know I'd seen it. And in that instant, I realized my marriage might not be what I thought it was. I noticed it before my eyes had even adjusted to the light. A small rectangle of silver, no bigger than my thumb, lying on the bathroom mat. The foil caught the glow from the window like a tiny mirror, mocking me with its presence. At first, my brain didn't process what I was seeing. I bent down, still groggy, rubbed my eyes, and picked it up. Empty pill foil. Round indents flattened from where tablets once pressed outward, the edges torn. Birth control. I stood frozen, the steam from the running shower fogging the mirror behind me. My wife, Claire, had stopped taking the pill years ago, ever since my vasectomy. We had agreed, no more chemical hormones in her body, no more risk. Oliver, our son, had been enough, and I'd gone under the knife to make it final. So why in God's name would she need this now? The foil felt heavier than it should have. I turned it over in my hand, absurdly hoping I had misunderstood. Maybe it was some vitamin, maybe something for her cycles. But no. I knew the brand name etched into the aluminum. I had seen it before, years ago, back when we were younger, reckless, and planning our future. I slipped it into my robe pocket before Claire came in. The water stopped. My heart pounded, and I suddenly didn't want her to know I'd seen it. She stepped out, her body glistening with water, towel wrapped loosely around her chest. Her hair clung to her neck, droplets racing down to the swell of her breasts. My wife had always been beautiful, but lately I'd noticed something sharper in her. More effort in her looks. Her lingerie drawer fuller than usual. Her workouts more consistent. "Morning," she said, voice casual. She leaned in, kissed my cheek, skin warm from the shower. I kissed her back, trying to ignore the electric jolt of suspicion crawling through me. The scent of her shampoo, the softness of her lips, it should have grounded me. Instead, I felt like I was standing on a ledge. "Morning," I muttered. "You're up early." "Big day at the office. I've got a showing across town." She smiled, that professional smile she wore for clients, the one that never reached her eyes with me anymore. I nodded, watching her move across the room. The towel slipped slightly, revealing the curve of her hip, and despite the storm inside me, desire sparked. I thought about sex, how long it had been since it felt spontaneous, how lately it had turned into something measured, almost reluctant on her part. She caught me watching. For a split second, her eyes softened, a flicker of the woman I had married. Then the wall went back up. She tightened the towel and disappeared into the closet. I stood there, the foil burning in my pocket. At work, I couldn't focus. My drafts blurred on the screen. Every line of the blueprints seemed to point back to that tiny piece of silver. Why would she take the pill again? The obvious answer screamed in my head, but I shoved it down. Claire wasn't reckless. She wasn't stupid. She was meticulous, organized. If she were cheating, Christ, even thinking it made me sick. Why leave evidence on the bathroom mat? It didn't matter how many times I reminded myself of our vows, of the years we'd built together, of Oliver's laugh filling the house. The image of that foil wouldn't leave me. I tried calling Claire around noon. No answer. Straight to voicemail. She often silenced her phone during work, but still. My throat tightened. I left no message. Instead, I found myself staring at the women in my office. Renee, my office manager, caught my eye once and frowned. She knew me well enough to see when something was wrong. But I waved her off with a forced smile. It was maddening, the way suspicion could taint everything. Every memory of Claire's late nights, every unexplained text, every sudden burst of energy when she dressed for work, my mind twisted them into signs. Maybe they were innocent. Maybe they weren't. By 3 o'clock, I gave up pretending. I closed my laptop and left early, telling myself I'd surprise her at home. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Oliver was at school, the nanny off until evening. Claire's car wasn't in the driveway. I walked through the rooms, feeling like an intruder in my own life. The kitchen smelled faintly of coffee and perfume. Her perfume. Stronger than usual. Upstairs, I opened her vanity drawer. Lipsticks, hairpins, foundation. And tucked neatly in the back, another foil pack. Not empty this time. Half full. My stomach dropped. I held it in my hand, trembling. There was no explaining this away now. My wife was taking birth control again. And she hadn't told me. The mirror across the room reflected me. A man unraveling, jaw clenched, veins tight in his neck. For the first time in my marriage, I felt completely outside of it, like the life I thought I had built wasn't mine at all. I put the foil back exactly where I found it. Closed the drawer. Downstairs, I poured a glass of whiskey though it wasn't even 4. The burn steadied me but not enough. Images crowded in, Claire's body pressed against someone else, her laugh reserved for another man, her mouth whispering things she no longer whispered to me. The thought made me sick. It also, against my will, stirred something darker, an image of her straddling someone in a hotel room, hair wild, eyes shut in abandon. My body reacted even as my chest burned with anger. I slammed the glass down, furious at myself. I wanted to storm into her office, slam the foil down on her desk, demand the truth. But another voice whispered in the back of my mind. What if she lies? What if she's smarter than that? The architect in me, the planner, the methodical builder, told me to wait, to gather facts before tearing down foundations. But that night, lying next to Claire as she drifted into sleep, her bare leg brushing against mine, I couldn't stop thinking about the pill hidden in her drawer. And the man it might be for. I didn't confront her. Not that night, not the next morning, not even when she kissed me goodbye before leaving for work with her hair perfectly curled and lips glossed like she was about to be photographed. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table long after she left, staring at my coffee until it went cold. My thoughts were jagged, tearing into me from every angle. The foil hadn't been a mistake. The pack in her drawer proved it. Claire was hiding something, and if I asked her directly, she would deny it. She had always been quick with explanations, and I knew myself, I'd want to believe her. But I needed facts. I opened my laptop and began searching. Hidden cameras. GPS trackers. Voice recorders. The tabs multiplied like branches on a tree, each one taking me further down a path I had never imagined walking. I had designed buildings, homes for other families, but never in my life had I designed a trap. Still, the architect in me found comfort in the process. Precision. Placement. Angles. These were things I could control. My life might have been slipping from under me, but I could at least master the tools to uncover the truth. I ordered 2 discrete cameras disguised as USB chargers. A GPS tracker no bigger than a pack of gum. A voice recorder designed to slide beneath a car seat. And DNA test kits, 2 of them. One for me, one for Oliver. The thought nearly broke me. Oliver. My son. 7 years old, with his messy dark hair and love for Legos, always asking me to help him build starships after dinner. I adored him. I had been there the day he was born, holding him before the nurse even finished cleaning him. His tiny hand had gripped my finger as if I were the only anchor in the world. But a question had planted itself in me like a parasite. What if he wasn't mine? The package confirmations hit my inbox within minutes. Delivery scheduled for the end of the week. My hands shook as I closed the laptop, drained. I told myself I wasn't crazy. I was protecting myself. Preparing for the storm I could already smell on the horizon. That evening, I tried to act normal. Claire came home later than usual, flushed and smiling, claiming the showing had gone long. She poured herself a glass of wine, her blouse still unbuttoned just a little lower than necessary. She caught me staring again. What? She teased, her lips curving. I forced a smile, though my stomach knotted. I wanted her, God help me. Wanted to push her against the counter and remind her that she was mine. But at the same time, suspicion buzzed like static between us, making every movement feel staged. Instead, I kissed her cheek and poured my own drink. Nothing. Just tired. She leaned against me for a moment, her breast pressing into my arm, her scent wrapping around me. The tension was unbearable, desire knotted with mistrust. When she slipped upstairs to change, I sat alone, staring at the swirl in my glass, wondering how much of my life had already been a lie. The first delivery came 2 days later, a small cardboard box that looked harmless enough. I signed for it, praying Claire wouldn't come home early. I opened it at my desk like a child sneaking forbidden candy. The cameras gleamed at me, ordinary little cubes disguised as chargers. I plugged one in by the kitchen counter, another in the bedroom. They looked innocent, part of the background noise of modern life. Next came the GPS tracker. I slipped it into the wheel well of her SUV one night while she showered. My heart hammered the whole time, every sound in the neighborhood magnified. When I crawled out from the garage, grease on my hands, I felt both ashamed and exhilarated. The recorder was trickier. I waited until Claire left for a weekend showing and ducked into the garage, slipping the slim device under the passenger seat of her car. It clung there like a secret, waiting. By then, I had become a ghost in my own home. Claire still kissed me, still lay beside me at night, her skin warm against mine, but I moved carefully, speaking less, listening more. She thought I was stressed from work. I let her believe it. But in the shadows I was building my case. The DNA kits arrived last. Plain white boxes, sterile and unforgiving. I locked them in my desk drawer, unable to look at them too long. Testing Oliver felt like cutting into my own flesh. But the doubt had already burrowed too deep. That night, after Claire fell asleep, I lay awake, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. Her hair spilled across the pillow, her lips parted slightly. She looked peaceful, beautiful, almost innocent. I wanted to reach for her, to bury my face against her skin and lose myself in the familiar rhythm of sex that once felt like home. But the thought twisted. Was she offering that same softness to someone else? Did another man know the taste of her size, the curve of her back beneath his hand? I turned away, my body aching with both need and anger. I had no answers yet, but soon I would. And once I knew the truth, nothing in our lives would ever be the same. The cameras began to whisper truths almost immediately. The first nights were empty, nothing but the hum of the refrigerator, the occasional sound of Claire moving through the house, or Oliver's small footsteps padding to the bathroom in the dark. But on the fourth day, when I scrolled through the footage on my laptop after work, I saw her. Claire in the bedroom, alone. She shut the door, sat at her vanity, and pulled out the drawer. My breath caught when she slid her hand to the back and retrieved the foil pack. I watched her shake a small pill into her palm, swallow it with water from the glass on her nightstand, then tuck the pack away again with practiced ease. No hesitation. No second-guessing. I sat frozen, staring at the screen. There was no longer any doubt. She was on the pill again. Not for me. Not for us. Still, I wanted more. Later that week, the recorder from her car confirmed my worst suspicions. Her voice filled my headphones as I listened in the dim light of my office. She was humming softly, then a pause, the click of a second phone. Not her usual ringtone. Then her voice, low and playful. "Hey, I miss you too." "No, he doesn't suspect a thing." "Same hotel?" "Friday after lunch." Her laugh. That damn laugh. Light, careless, the way she hadn't laughed with me in years. I ripped the headphones off, chest heaving. It felt like someone had reached inside me and twisted something vital. But the real blow came days later. I had learned her routine. One evening while she was showering, I slipped back into the bedroom and searched the vents. It was Renee's voice in my head that guided me, her calm advice at the office when she'd once caught me unraveling over a missed deadline. Breathe. Break the problem into parts. Find the source. I found the source. Tucked inside the heating vent beneath the window was a slim black phone. A burner. I stared at it like it was a live wire, then carefully pulled it out and set it on the bed. My hands shook as I cloned the data onto my laptop, praying she wouldn't walk in. The messages appeared in a flood, explicit enough to make me feel sick. Claire, my wife of 10 years, sending photos I didn't recognize, lingerie I had never seen, poses she'd never given me. Her words were filthier than she'd ever dared with me, her excitement dripping through the screen. And the name. Jay. She called him Jay, and he responded in kind, their back and forth filled with details of stolen afternoons in hotel rooms. The words blurred as I scrolled, but one line burned itself into me. Poor Ethan. He never suspects. I wanted to punch a hole through the wall. To march downstairs, drag her from the shower, and confront her dripping wet with the phone in my hand. But something stronger than rage held me back. The planner in me. The part that whispered, get proof. Then get out smart. It was the next morning at the office when I broke. I must have looked like hell, because Renee cornered me after our morning briefing. She closed the door to my office and leaned against the frame, arms crossed, her sharp eyes narrowing. Talk, she said simply. I hesitated, but the dam burst. Not everything, God, not Oliver, not yet, but enough. The foil. The burner phone. The texts. Her expression softened, though there was no pity in it, only steel. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Listen to me, Ethan. Don't be reckless. Don't scream, don't beg. Get proof. Then get out smart. Her words were steady, a lifeline in the chaos. For a moment, I felt grounded by her presence, the warmth of her hand when she placed it briefly on mine. She wasn't just my office manager, she was my anchor, my reminder that not every woman lied with her smile. I nodded, swallowing hard. Proof. Then smart. Exactly. She gave me a small, almost sad smile. You're an architect. Build the exit before you burn the house down. That night, lying beside Claire, I studied her silhouette in the glow of the street lamp outside. Her breathing was slow, steady, the picture of innocence. But I knew better now. She stirred in her sleep, rolled toward me, her thigh brushing mine. My body reacted instantly, a cruel reminder of how much I still wanted her. The scent of her skin filled my lungs, and for a heartbeat I nearly forgot everything, nearly reached for her. But then I remembered the messages. Ethan never suspects. I turned away, the rage inside me molten and alive. I had the proof. But proof wasn't enough. It was time to plan my escape. I didn't storm out. I didn't scream. I didn't even throw the burner phone at Claire's feet and demand the truth. I waited. Patience had never been my strength, but now it was my shield. I told myself the difference between a man ruined and a man reborn was strategy. And if Claire thought she was clever, then I would be colder, sharper, merciless. At work, my drafts piled up unanswered. I'd stare at walls instead of blueprints, my thoughts circling the same questions. How long had she been with him? Was it just Jay, or had there been others? And how much of my life had been one long performance for her? I must have been obvious, because Renee eventually shut my office door again and leaned across my desk. You look like you're about to chew glass, she said. I almost laughed. Instead, I whispered, I have proof. She's been lying to me. Renee didn't look surprised. She tilted her head, dark hair falling over one shoulder. Then it's time you stopped playing defense. What does that mean? She smiled faintly, though her eyes were hard. You need a lawyer. A good one. Someone who can make sure you don't get gutted alive. The name she gave me was Angela Cortez. Meeting her was like stepping into another battlefield entirely. She was petite, mid-40s, with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. Her office smelled of leather and fresh coffee, and she wasted no time. You want my advice, Ethan? She said, tapping her pen against her desk. You don't wait for her to file. You hit first. Hit hard. Divorce is a war, not a negotiation. Protect your assets, protect your future, and let her explain herself in front of a judge if she wants to. Her bluntness startled me, but it also lit a spark. For weeks, I'd been drowning in helplessness. Angela's words were like a rope thrown into the storm. She leaned back in her chair, studying me. Tell me about your finances. How much do you have outside the business? I hesitated. Savings, some investments. Move them, she cut in. Funnel everything you can into your architecture firm. On paper, you need to look broke. If she's been cheating, she's not entitled to ride away rich. I blinked. That's legal? She smirked. It's smart. And smart is what keeps you from losing everything. That night, I sat in my office long after Oliver went to bed, spreadsheets open on my computer. My business partner, Matt, was the only other person I trusted, And when I called him, he answered on the first ring. "You sound like you're calling from the bottom of a well," he said. I told him enough: affair, possible divorce, Angela's plan. He didn't hesitate. "Whatever you need, I've got your back. We'll bury your personal cash in the firm, show it as business expansion. It'll look airtight." The relief in my chest was almost painful. At least someone was still firmly on my side. When I hung up, I stared at the files on my screen, then at the framed photo of Oliver on my desk, his gap-toothed smile, arms wrapped around my neck. The boy I loved more than life itself. But that dark question was still there. What if he wasn't mine? I opened the drawer, stared at the DNA kits. My hand hovered, then pulled back. Not yet. I wasn't ready to shatter the last illusion of my life. Over the next week, I moved carefully. Claire laughed over wine at dinner, told me stories about difficult clients, leaned against me in bed as if nothing were wrong. I played the part of the tired husband, distracted but affectionate. She didn't suspect. But inside, I was rewiring the foundation of my life. Angela called me twice, each time more ruthless than the last. "You need to be ready," she said. "The minute we file, she'll try to twist this. Affairs are one thing, but money, that's where she'll claw. Don't let her." Her certainty steadied me. And so did Renee. She didn't pry after that first conversation, but sometimes, when she caught me staring blankly at my computer, she'd brush my arm lightly, a grounding touch. "You're stronger than you think," she murmured once. It was nothing and yet everything. It made me realize I wasn't completely alone. The plan crystallized. Step 1, protect my assets. Done. Step 2, gather undeniable proof. In progress. Step 3, strike first, divorce papers citing adultery, fraud, emotional distress. Angela would handle it. And step 4, leave Claire with nothing but the ruins she'd created. The thought was cold, merciless, but it gave me strength. For the first time since finding that foil on the bathroom mat, I felt a flicker of control. That night, Claire curled against me in bed, her legs sliding over mine, her lips brushing my neck. My body stirred, traitorous as ever, but I forced myself still. Her skin was warm, inviting. Once, it would have been enough to erase every doubt. Now it was just a costume she wore, a lie wrapped in silk sheets. I closed my eyes and let her drift to sleep, her breathing steady against my shoulder. Soon, I promised myself. Soon the truth would be carved into the open. And when it was, Claire wouldn't see me as the oblivious fool she mocked in her messages. She would see me as the man who burned her world down with precision. The DNA kit sat in my drawer for weeks, a white box that seemed to hum with menace every time I opened the desk. I couldn't bring myself to touch it. To test Oliver felt like treason against my own heart. But Angela's words haunted me. Protect your future. Don't let her claw you apart. And Renee's softer reminder echoed too. You're stronger than you think. One Saturday morning, while Claire was at a showing, I finally gave in. Oliver sat at the kitchen table, hair mussed, pajamas still wrinkled from sleep, focused on building a Lego tower. "Hey, buddy," I said, forcing cheer into my voice. "Want to help me with something? A fun science project." He grinned, missing tooth and all. "Like school?" "Yeah, just like school." My throat tightened as I opened the kit. Swabs. Instructions. Sterile plastic bags. My hands shook as I showed him how to rub the cotton against the inside of his cheek. He laughed, saying it tickled. When he was done, I sealed the swab, labeling it carefully. My chest ached. He trusted me completely, his eyes bright with innocence. He had no idea I was about to gamble our entire bond on a strip of lab analysis. Later, when he wasn't looking, I swabbed my own cheek. The motions felt mechanical, my breath shallow. I packed everything, sealed the envelope, and dropped it into the mailbox down the street. My hand lingered on the cold metal, as if pulling it back could undo the choice. But it was too late. The days crawled. At night, Claire slept soundly beside me, unaware. I studied her more closely now, noticing every detail, the way she turned her phone face down on the nightstand, how she slipped out of bed earlier than usual, the sudden glow in her skin as if she'd tapped into a new secret life. I found more texts on the burner. Messages to Jay, full of crude jokes and promises of afternoons together. One image burned itself into me, her reflection in a hotel mirror, body wrapped in a towel, biting her lip in a way she hadn't done for me in years. "Wish you were here," she had written. I wanted to smash the phone. Instead, I saved everything. Proof. More fuel for Angela's strategy. But the DNA test lingered at the edge of my thoughts, gnawing worse than anything else. If Oliver wasn't mine, then Claire hadn't just betrayed me in the present, she'd rewritten our past. The results arrived on a Wednesday morning. A plain envelope with my name typed neatly on the front. I sat in my office, door locked, envelope trembling in my hands. I wanted to throw it away, pretend it never came. But the architect in me couldn't leave foundations untested. If there was rot, I had to face it. I tore it open. The words blurred at first, my vision swimming. I blinked, forced myself to focus. Probability of paternity, 0%. The paper slipped from my hands. My stomach turned inside out, my lungs refusing to work. I pressed both palms to my desk, gasping, waiting for my body to obey me again. Oliver wasn't mine. The boy I had cradled, the child whose first steps I'd cheered, the son I'd tucked into bed with silly stories, he wasn't my blood. Claire had known. She'd built our life on this lie. I pressed my forehead against the desk, tears burning hot. For a long time, I let the grief swallow me whole. The sound of Oliver's laughter echoed in my head, every memory turning cruel. But grief gave way to rage. Angela's investigator confirmed the missing piece. The man's name, Jason Harper. Claire's regional manager. Married. Clean reputation, at least on paper. The betrayal stretched back years. Angela suggested it might have begun before Oliver was even born. Maybe Jason had been the father all along, laughing at me while I raised his son. When she told me, her voice was flat, professional. But I could hear the edge beneath it. This isn't a fling, Ethan. It's systemic. Long-term. That makes her vulnerable legally. I barely heard the rest. Jason's name roared in my skull like a curse. That night, I couldn't bring myself to speak to Claire. She breezed in from work, kissed my cheek, poured herself wine, and told me about some client she'd charmed. I watched her lips move, saw her smile, and all I could think was, "You've stolen everything from me." When Oliver bounded into the kitchen, clutching his Lego spaceship, I forced a smile. I picked him up, his small arms wrapping around my neck, his voice excited as he explained every detail of the ship. But the weight of him nearly crushed me. He wasn't mine. Not by blood. And yet, I loved him still. The love hadn't vanished with the report. It only hurt more, because I knew what had been taken from me. That night, I sat at my desk again, staring at the test results. The proof was complete. Claire's betrayal wasn't just adultery, it was fraud. My entire marriage, my role as a father, built on a lie she'd orchestrated with another man. The rage simmered into something sharper. Not wild, not chaotic. Purposeful. Angela was right. Renee was right. It was time to strike. Angela didn't waste time once I handed her the DNA results and the files from Claire's burner phone. She studied them in silence, her fingers tapping the desk in a steady rhythm. When she looked up, her eyes were bright and merciless. "This is everything I need. We'll gut her." Her certainty was both terrifying and comforting. I had been unraveling for weeks, but Angela made it sound like I was about to win a war I hadn't even known I was fighting. "How?" I asked, my voice hoarse. She leaned forward, sliding the papers into a folder. "We filed divorce papers citing adultery, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The fraud is key. She passed another man's child off as yours for 7 years. That's financial and emotional damages. Judges eat that alive." My stomach twisted, hearing it laid out so clinically. Oliver reduced to a line item in a legal argument. But I stayed silent. Angela continued, her voice smooth. "Next, we sued Jason Harper for alienation of affection. Colorado still recognizes it. That opens him up to damages, public, financial, personal. His spotless reputation will take a bullet." And finally, she allowed herself the faintest smile. We send an anonymous complaint to his corporate HR. He's her regional manager, she's his subordinate. That's a textbook violation of workplace policy. I gripped the arms of my chair. All at once. All at once. She nodded. Shock and awe. They won't know what hit them. The plan took a week to assemble. Angela worked with her investigator, building the case. Matt, my partner, covered for me at the firm as I spent long nights in Angela's office. Renee helped quietly, printing documents, cross-checking numbers, slipping me files without a word. She didn't ask questions, but the look in her eyes told me she knew I was preparing to detonate my life. And then the day came. I didn't see the papers served. Angela insisted I stay out of it. You'll get your satisfaction soon enough, she said. For now, let me handle the ugliness. But I heard about it, every detail. Claire was at her desk when the server walked in with the envelope. Her coworkers watched as she opened it, her face blanching as the words inside registered. Adultery. Emotional distress. Her humiliation was public, sharp, and immediate. Jason Harper's day was worse. He was in a boardroom when the process server slid the documents in front of him. Lawsuit for alienation of affection. Legal demand for damages. At the same time, HR received Angela's complaint and opened an investigation. His colleagues saw it all. Saw his mask of control crack, saw the color drain from his face. I pictured it vividly, though I hadn't been there. Claire clutching the papers with trembling hands. Jason trying to keep his composure while whispers spread around the table. I thought it would feel like triumph. Instead, it felt like watching my house collapse in slow motion, except this time, I was the one holding the detonator. That night, Claire stormed into the house. Her face was blotched red, her hands shaking. She slammed the door, throwing her purse against the wall. How could you? She screamed. I stood in the kitchen, calm, whiskey glass in hand. How could I? You blindsided me at work, humiliated me in front of everyone. Her voice cracked. And Oliver, you put him in those papers like he's not mine? I snapped. The words shot out before I could stop them. Her mouth opened, then shut, her face crumpling. I stepped closer, fury boiling. 7 years, Claire. 7 goddamn years of lies. You knew. Don't you dare act like I'm the villain here. Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I barked a bitter laugh. No, it was supposed to happen in hotel rooms, wasn't it? While you sent your little jokes about how Ethan never suspects. Her shoulders shook. Please, can we just talk? Privately? Without lawyers? No, my voice was ice. You wanted secrets. You can live with them in court. She flinched, covering her face with her hands. For the first time, I saw not the confident, polished woman who ran her office with charm and precision, but someone cornered, stripped bare. For a fleeting moment, I almost softened. But then I remembered the DNA results. The texts. The laughter meant for another man. The moment passed. Angela was right. The fallout spread fast. Claire's colleagues whispered behind her back. Jason's name became a liability at his company. Within days, HR put him on leave pending investigation. The lawsuit hit the local business news, dragging both their names through the mud. My family found out too. Word spread through legal filings and gossip. My sister called, her voice tight with shock. Some urged reconciliation, clinging to the old image of us as the perfect couple. Others stood firmly with me, telling me I was right to scorch the earth. I listened politely, but inside I was hollow. Because no matter how strategic, how ruthless, how well executed the strike had been, I still went home to silence. Claire slept in Oliver's room that night, while I lay alone in the master bed. The victory felt like ashes. Still, the plan was working. I had protected my assets, humiliated her, dragged Jason into the fire with her. The walls of the life Claire had built from lies were crumbling around her. I should have felt free. But instead, I felt the weight of everything I'd lost pressing harder than ever. I didn't plan the confrontation. It came to me like a storm breaking without warning, and when it happened, there was no stopping it. Claire came home late, again. Her hair was too neat, her blouse half unbuttoned, lips still carrying the faint smear of gloss. She walked into the house as if it still belonged to her, as if the divorce papers hadn't already been delivered, as if the lies weren't piled around her like wreckage. "Where's Oliver?" she asked, setting down her purse with forced calm. "Asleep," I said flatly. Her eyes flicked to me. She could feel it, something coiled in my stance, the whiskey glass untouched in my hand, the silence too deliberate. "Ethan," she whispered, "we need to talk." I laughed. A short, bitter sound. "Talk? That's what you want to do now?" She took a step closer. "I know you're angry, but—" "Angry?" My voice rose, sharp and cold. "You destroyed me, Claire. You lied to me for 7 years. And you want to talk?" Her face drained of color. "You don't understand." I reached into the drawer by the counter, pulled out the DNA results, and threw them onto the table between us. The pages fanned out, the words screaming from the paper. Probability of paternity, 0%. She stared at them, frozen. Her mouth opened, then closed again, no words coming. "Say it," I hissed. "Say it out loud. Oliver isn't mine." Tears welled in her eyes. Her voice cracked. "Ethan, please, he is yours, just not by blood. You've raised him, loved him, you're the only father he's ever known." The words stabbed deeper than any blade. "Don't you dare use my love for him to excuse what you did. You knew the truth and let me believe a lie. Every time I tucked him in, every time I told him I loved him, you knew." She shook her head violently. "I didn't mean for it to happen. Jason." "Jason." I spat the name like poison. "Your regional manager. Your secret. The man you mocked me with in your texts." Her body shook, shoulders trembling. "It wasn't like that. Don't lie to me again." I slammed my hand against the counter, the sound echoing through the house. "You hid a burner phone in our bedroom, Claire. You laughed about me never suspecting. You fucked him while telling me you loved me. And worst of all, you stole my son from me." Her tears spilled over. "He's still your son, Ethan?" "No," I cut her off, my voice raw. "He's your son. Yours and Jason's. Not mine. I won't live another day in this house pretending otherwise." Her knees buckled and she caught herself against the chair. "Please," she sobbed, "don't take this out on Oliver. He loves you. He needs you." My chest tightened. The image of Oliver's smile, his little arms around my neck, the way he looked at me with absolute trust, it tore me apart. But the rage was stronger, the betrayal too deep. "I can't," I whispered. "I can't live in this lie anymore." Her sobs grew harsher. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Her hands hovered in the air, trembling. "Get out," I said. Her head snapped up. "What?" "Pack your things. Take your son. And get out." She blinked, stunned. "You can't mean that." "I mean every word." My voice was steel. "Oliver isn't mine. He never was. You and Jason made sure of that. So leave. Take him, take your lies, and go." For a moment, the only sound was her broken breathing. Then she nodded slowly, as if the weight of my words crushed her into silence. She stumbled upstairs, her sobs muffled, while I stood rooted in the kitchen, every muscle shaking. Minutes later, she came down with a small bag and Oliver in tow. He was half asleep, his head resting on her shoulder, his arms limp around her neck. He blinked once at me, confused, but didn't speak. I forced myself not to move, not to reach for him, not to let the love in my chest betray the decision I had made. Claire paused at the door, tears streaming. "I never wanted it to end like this," she whispered. I didn't answer. She stepped outside, the door closing behind her with a soft click. The silence that followed was unbearable. I dropped into a chair, buried my face in my hands, and let the storm tear me apart. But even through the grief, through the hollow ache of losing the boy I loved, one truth remained sharp in my mind. I wasn't the fool she thought I was anymore. The house was empty, too quiet. For 7 years, Oliver's laughter had been the heartbeat of this place, and now it was gone, ripped out along with Claire. At first, I thought the silence would bring peace. Instead, it gnawed at me. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like ghosts. Every empty room reminded me of what I had lost, not by chance, but by design. Claire's design. Jason's design. I buried myself in work. Drafts, contracts, blueprints, anything to keep my mind from circling the hollow in my chest. But even the sharp lines of architecture blurred. At night, I poured whiskey until my hands stopped trembling, then woke to the same ache all over again. Claire didn't stay quiet long. Within a week, I was served with a restraining order. She claimed I had threatened her, that I had created emotional harm in front of Oliver. The irony nearly made me laugh. She had deceived me for years, stolen fatherhood from me, and now she dared to paint me as dangerous. Angela tore it apart. We sat in her office, the papers spread across her desk. She skimmed them with a small, humorless smile. She's grasping. This won't hold. Judges don't like false claims, especially not when the opposing party can drop this, she said, tapping the DNA results. Within days, the restraining order was dismissed. Angela's confidence was a weapon, sharp enough to cut through Claire's attempts at defense. But Claire wasn't the only one drowning. Jason Harper lost his job. The HR complaint dug up everything. The texts, the power imbalance, the blatant violation of corporate policy. They fired him with cause. His name was whispered through Denver's business circles like a warning. The lawsuit I had filed wrapped around his ankles like chains, tying him up in court while his reputation bled out in public. For a moment I savored it. The man who had destroyed my life was watching his own collapse. But satisfaction was fleeting. I sold the house. I couldn't stay in those walls anymore, not with memories of Oliver's toys, Claire's perfume lingering in the air, the faint laugh I still imagined echoing down the hallway. The for sale sign went up, and within a month, I walked out for the last time. Renee offered me her spare apartment. She had a small place downtown, above a bookstore, neat and quiet. The night I moved in, she helped me carry boxes up the stairs. Her touch was practical, but when our hands brushed, I felt a jolt that startled me. "You don't have to thank me," she said softly when I tried. "Just let yourself breathe here." I nodded, but breathing felt foreign. The apartment was safe, but it was hollow too. No laughter. No family. Just me and the echo of everything Claire had taken. The lawsuits dragged on, bleeding money from Claire and Jason. Angela warned me to expect retaliation, and she was right. Claire tried to freeze accounts, to demand spousal support. Each move she made, Angela countered, dismantling her arguments piece by piece. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt nothing but exhaustion. At night, I would lie in the small bed in Renee's spare room, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I thought about Oliver, his questions, his Lego ships, the way he'd called me Dad without hesitation. I missed him more than I missed Claire. But I had made my choice. I couldn't live in a lie. Other nights, darker thoughts came. I imagined Jason in a cheap motel with Claire, both of them stripped bare, laughing at me while they touched. The images burned, mixing anger with a raw, unwanted arousal. Betrayal and sex tangled until I couldn't tell one from the other. I hated them both. I hated myself for still reacting to the thought of her. One evening, Renee found me sitting in the dark, a half-empty glass in my hand. She didn't say anything at first. Just sat across from me, the lamplight softening her sharp features. "You can't keep bleeding like this," she said quietly. "I don't know how to stop," I admitted. She leaned forward, her hand brushing mine. It was the same grounding touch as before, but this time it lingered. Her eyes held mine, steady, unwavering. "You're not broken, Ethan." "Betrayed, yes. But not broken. Don't let her win by making you believe you are." For the first time in weeks, I let out a shaky breath that wasn't rage or grief. Renee wasn't offering pity. She was offering strength. I didn't reach for her then. But something shifted. The retaliation continued. Claire filed motions, tried to stall, tried to bleed me through lawyers. Jason fought the alienation lawsuit, his attorneys desperate to protect what was left of his reputation. But Angela was relentless. She dismantled every argument, one by one, until both of them looked like cornered animals. Watching it unfold was grim satisfaction, like pressing on a bruise. They had thought they could steal my life in secret. Now every corner of their betrayal was public record. Still, when I returned to Renee's apartment at night, the hollow ache never left. I had destroyed them, but I had destroyed myself in the process too. The victory was mine. And yet, I had never felt more hollow. I thought the lawsuits, the humiliation, the ruined careers, that would be the peak of this storm. That there was no further cliff to fall from. But I was wrong. The news came on a Tuesday evening. I was at Renee's apartment, half listening to the hum of the city outside, when my phone buzzed. Angela's number. "Ethan," she said, her voice sharp, "turn on the TV. Local news." I grabbed the remote, flicked it on. And there it was. Jason Harper's face plastered on the screen, the words scrolling beneath. "Local businessman shot dead in motel incident." I froze, the world narrowing to the reporter's voice. According to sources, Jason Harper, 42, was shot late last night by his wife, Lydia Harper, in what appears to be a domestic dispute. Police confirm Mr. Harper was discovered at a roadside motel with a woman identified as Claire Marshall. The rest blurred. My ears roared like static. They'd been caught again, not in offices or whispers this time, but in the cheapest motel Denver had to offer. And Jason's wife had found them. I pictured the scene too vividly, Lydia bursting through the door, gun shaking in her hand, Claire half-naked and Jason scrambling, panic too late. One pull of the trigger, and Jason was gone. I sank into the couch, numb. Angela's voice broke through the static. "Do you hear me? This changes everything. The lawsuits, the court will factor this in. Claire's credibility is annihilated. She's toxic now." I barely managed to answer. "She watched him die." "Yes," Angela said flatly. "And she's finished." But finished didn't mean gone. Claire called me 2 nights later. The number was blocked, but I knew the voice instantly, hoarse, broken. "Ethan," she whispered, "please." I didn't know she had a gun. I didn't think. "Don't," I snapped. The sound of her voice sent fire through my veins. "Don't call me again." "He's dead," she sobbed. "He's gone and I don't know what to do." "Cry to someone else," I said coldly. "You made your bed. Now lie in it." And I hung up. I sat there afterward, phone still in my hand, chest heaving. Part of me felt sick, because despite everything, I could hear real terror in her voice. But another part of me, darker and louder, felt grim satisfaction. Jason was gone. The man who had ruined my life, stolen my wife, fathered the boy I raised, he was lying in a morgue. Justice, delivered not by lawyers or courts, but by a furious wife who had endured her own betrayal. I hadn't lifted a finger. And yet, I felt as though the bullet had passed through me too. The city buzzed with gossip. Jason's death dominated the business pages for days. Lydia was arrested, then released on bail, her face splashed across every channel. Claire's name was dragged through the mud again, her reputation not just ruined, but incinerated. She was the mistress in the scandal, the other woman who had cost a man his life. I watched it all unfold from Renee's apartment, my life reduced to fragments of headlines and court documents. People whispered that I must feel vindicated, that I'd been avenged. But vengeance didn't taste like freedom. It tasted like ash. At night, I dreamed of Oliver. His small voice calling me Dad. His arms around my neck. And I dreamed of Claire, standing in that motel room with blood on her hands, her eyes wide with horror. I woke drenched in sweat, unable to shake the images. Renee tried to ground me. One evening, she found me staring blankly at the TV as the same report played again. "You should turn it off," she said gently. "She was there," I muttered. "She watched him die." Renee's eyes softened. She sat beside me, her hand brushing my arm. "And now she's paying the price. You don't need to carry it with her." I turned to look at her, the lamplight catching her face. For a moment, the storm inside me quieted. Renee wasn't part of the wreckage. She was steady, constant, alive. But when I closed my eyes, all I saw was Jason falling, Claire screaming, Lydia with the gun. The legal war shifted overnight. With Jason dead, his side of the lawsuit collapsed. Angela adjusted our strategy, dismantling Claire's claims with renewed ferocity. She has no ground left to stand on, Angela told me, her voice laced with satisfaction. You're walking away clean. She's the one drowning. I should have felt victorious. But instead, I stared at the man in the mirror and barely recognized him. A hollowed-out shell, eyes ringed dark, shoulders heavy. Jason was gone. Claire was disgraced. Oliver gone from me too. The war was ending, but I felt no peace. Only silence. The storm had passed, but I was left staring at wreckage. Jason was dead. Claire was disgraced, her name a permanent stain in every conversation that drifted through Denver's real estate world. Oliver was out of reach, a ghost in my life, though I heard from my sister that he still asked about me. And me? I was alive, financially protected, yes. But I felt like a man who had crawled out of a collapsed building, bones intact, spirit shattered. Angela's voice was sharp as ever when she declared the divorce all but settled. She's bled dry, she said. No leverage left. You'll walk away with your firm, your assets, and a record that shows you as the wronged party. This is as clean as it gets, Ethan. The word rang hollow. Nothing felt clean. It was Renee who started to stitch me back together. I noticed it first in small things. A coffee left on my desk in the mornings, the exact way I liked it. A gentle reminder when I forgot meetings. Her presence wasn't pitying, it was steady, like scaffolding holding me upright. One evening, after another long day buried in blueprints, she stopped me as I packed my bag. You've been carrying this weight alone for too long, she said quietly. Let me take some of it. I almost laughed. You don't know how heavy it is. Her gaze held mine, unwavering. Heavier than death? Heavier than betrayal? Maybe not. I've carried my own. I studied her, suddenly realizing how little I knew of her private life. Renee had been by my side at work for nearly a decade, but I'd always seen her as an anchor, never a person with storms of her own. And yet there was something in her eyes, pain buried, but not gone. Come with me, she said. Her apartment was warmer than mine. Plants lined the windowsill, soft music hummed from a speaker, and the faint smell of vanilla clung to the air. She poured us wine, and for the first time in months, I felt something like calm settle in my chest. You've always carried yourself like a fortress, she said, handing me a glass. But even fortresses fall if no one guards them. Her words disarmed me. I sank into the couch, staring at the glass in my hand. I thought I was building a life. I thought I had it all planned. Turns out I was just building walls around lies. She sat beside me, close enough that her knee brushed mine. Not all women lie, Ethan, she said softly. Not all of us betray trust. Some of us wait years, watching, hoping for a chance to prove it. Her words struck me harder than I expected. I turned to her, searching her face, and saw no mockery, no agenda. Just truth. I felt the pull between us, the warmth of her body so near, the way her lips parted slightly as if she'd said too much. For a moment, the silence buzzed with tension, heavy and electric. My chest tightened, torn between guilt and hunger. I don't know if I can, I whispered. You don't have to know, she said, her voice barely above a breath. You just have to let yourself feel again. Her hand slid over mine, fingers intertwining. The touch was steady, not urgent, but it sent a spark racing through me. My body remembered what desire felt like, even if my heart was still raw. I wanted her. God help me, I wanted her. But instead of pulling her closer, I leaned back, exhaling hard. I'm not ready. She nodded, not pulling away. Then we go slow. As slow as you need. I'll be here. That night, lying awake in her spare bedroom, I thought about what she had said. Not all women lie. The words echoed, soothing and terrifying all at once. For months, I'd believed trust was a myth, a weakness to be exploited. And yet, sitting beside Renee, I felt the faintest spark of something I thought I'd lost forever. The thought startled me. Could there be another life after this ruin? Another chance at family, at love? Maybe even fatherhood again, if I dared undo what I'd done years ago with the vasectomy. I didn't have answers yet. But for the first time since finding that pill foil on the bathroom mat, I wasn't drowning. I was breathing. And though fragile as glass, a new beginning was taking shape.